Welcome to Otherworldly, the Changing Times, Changing Worlds show every Wednesday night. Tonight, we are going to be talking to Angela Raincatcher, also Angela Roberts Reader, so who is an artist who I encountered at Sacred Space, and my goodness, the art was very impactful. I just loved it. I have a personal hobby horse. I hate the fact that in a lot of modern pagan art, they try and turn all of the goddesses into Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders, and it's like, no, goddesses are powerful without having big boobs and a face like a 14-year-old. Now, I'm not asking you to put wrinkles on, maybe on the Cadillac, but this was just such women that are believable women of many races, and it was wonderful, and gods too. So anyway, so that just impressed me. And of course, I did my usual thing of saying, oh, can you come on the Otherworldly so I can share this with everybody else? And she said yes. So here she is. She is a pagan artist. She is an activist in the DC area. Is it Baltimore, DC? I'm too far north. I don't understand.
That's okay. I live in Baltimore and I work and worship in Washington, D.C. Yeah.
Oh, okay. And so she runs rituals down there. She does a bunch of cool stuff aside from art. And we are very happy to have her. And I am also an artist. One of the things I call myself is a will crafter, which is Old English for an idol maker, religious icon maker. And I've made, I do both the sculptures of reproductions of ancient sculptures, which is fun. But also ones that just seem, the clay tells me what it's going to do next. And sometimes I think the personality behind it is very bossy, and I don't know who it is I'm doing, but the funniest story was I was doing one, and it's like, okay, no, my face is wider, my cheekbones are higher. What? Okay, fine. And it's like, now get down. I work from the top down on the clay, and okay, I need my right hand is holding a key on my chest. Okay, I can do that. Left hand is down on the head of a dog. It's like, the head of a dog? I'm gonna have to get another lump of clay. You want me to have a dog? And so, dog. And so got down, went through the firing, went through the next part, and it's just like, okay, my hair is blonde. Hair is blonde? Cheekbones like that? It's like, you're supposed to, no. It's like, okay, my robe is purple, my gown is blue, the dog is black. I had no idea who that was. And then I put her out on the table and I said, oh, what a lovely Hecate. And I was like, black dog, duh. It's like, but I had no idea. I just did what I was told. I do not have a picture of that. Sometimes I take photographs, sometimes I don't. And there was one I did, and it was a woman pouring a jug into a well. I was doing a bachelor at the time. I got it, I put it out on the table, and a girl comes by and she said, oh my God, I saw that exact scene in a dream 2 weeks ago. And I said, that would be about the one I made it. So you'd be very difficult to convince me that there isn't some psychic thing going on here. And I see a lot of nodding, so obviously it's not just me. So that's my, not trying to steal it from you, but to say, yeah, there's a lot of us out there, and we share some of these experiences. So I'm going to put you on the speaker mode so that we can see you close up. And there now, and I hope you will be able to share some of your stuff with us. I loved it.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Typicon, for inviting me and for saying all the lovely things about my artwork. I'm so glad to be here. And getting to meet new people. I just love getting to meet new people and talking about art making and the relationship, for me, the relationship with the gods that go with that. Let's see. So there's so many things that you brought up in kind of your introduction that I want to like kind of take up and tease out. And
Pass you the ball, run with it.
Yeah. So I think I'll start off just, kind of giving you all a little bit about who I am and where I come from, and that will maybe make what I'm doing make sense. Maybe, I don't know. So I was actually raised for the first 7 years of my life on a spiritualist camp, and my parents are both ministers and mediums, and it was really interesting being completely surrounded by this beautiful natural world, but also being completely surrounded by a bunch of people who had the sight and thought that it was completely natural to talk to and about spirit guides and the dead, and all of that was perfectly normal. And as I grew up, having kind of seen, because I mean, if for those of you who are like healers or priests or priestesses, anybody who's working with people, that you've got to have pretty strong boundaries, or you can get like caught in kind of the tsunami wave of people's needs. And I decided at a very young age I didn't want any of that, which for a long time I just kind of blocked everything out. And I work, I really don't want to get into where I work, but I work for a very hyper rational scientific organization. So sometimes when folks find out, that I'm both pagan and I do artwork, they ask me like, oh, tell me about your art. And I always have to ask, do you want the short answer or do you want the woo-woo answer? And if they say, oh, well, give me the woo-woo answer, I'm like, you've asked for it. So so we're definitely going to be talking woo-woo today. And
we asked for it.
You asked for it. I see myself as a spirit-led artist. The work that I do is really in conjunction with the gods, the goddesses, the ancestors, and it's inspired by the visions that they give to me. And that sounds really lovely, but really what it feels like most of the time is when a god comes and goes, oh, hey, by the way, I want a painting.
Yeah.
And it's like, I've already done 3 portraits of you, dude. No, but I want one now. And it's get in line or you negotiate. And so this first work I'm going to show you is by the pushiest, and yes, you're pushy, the pushiest of them. And actually, I do a work. I do a painting or a drawing for Papa Legba at the beginning of every year. He is the first artwork that I do every year. And because he is the road opener. And if basically the conversation that we have had is, if I want to have the road opened between me and the gods, between me and the inspiration and the creative spirit, if I want those blessings to continue to flow into my life, he would like that painting. Thank you very much. And so this is a piece that I did of him actually now a couple of years ago. And what I wanted, and a lot of times what I do is it's the impression that I get of that spirit. But I also start doing a lot of digging into their stories. I talk to people who work with that god or goddess. It's like, tell me about that deity. Tell me about your relationship with them. Tell me, what are your favorite stories about that spirit or that god or goddess? And that is, I kind of take all of that in. I usually, have something on my altar to that deity once they've knocked on the door, so to speak. And depending on the medium that I'm using for that particular piece, that will also impact the kind of the process that I go through. So I'm going to stop share. Yes, I was gonna say Papa Legba is very assertive. Yes, and he's very talkative. It's interesting. Some of the gods and goddesses I work with are very, very talkative. Well, I will tell you a story about Odin. I've got a portrait of him too. Yeah, and so it's like Papa Legba is really talkative. Dionysus seems to be very talkative, at least to me. Hecate, I've done a few portraits of her. And it's just like who is coming up, who's showing up, who's talking to me. What I find really interesting is, like, for me, the god that I work the most closely with, personally, I've only done one portrait of him. He's very, very quiet on that front. He's like, I got plenty of icons and idols. I don't know that I really need another. I'm here in your life for a different purpose. So yeah, for me, it's about the relationship with those spirits. I'm just going to jump around. I'm going to jump around. I am not going in any order. But I'm going to go with, Star Wolf was asking about Odin. So, I don't really have a relationship with Odin. I have kind of chatted with him a few times where I've been like, hey, most of my ancestry is, Anglo-Saxon and German, but you don't talk to me a whole lot. The gods that do end up talking to me are the Orishas. What's that about, dude? And yes, I do kind of talk to the gods that way. And he just is like, meh, yeah, yeah. But a friend of mine does work with him very closely. Several of my friends do, but this one particular friend of mine who we were having this conversation about some of the work that she does with him. And I just was like, well, maybe I'm going to do what I do sometimes, which is I'm going to go online. I'm going to go into Pinterest, one of my favorite places to play. And I'm just going to see what's there. Like, what images are already there? What's out there? Does anything like sing to me? And it was interesting because most of what I found was either, I am the muscly warrior who will like slice off the heads of all my enemies, or I'm the crazy old man in a hat. Those were like the two images, and that's all I saw over and over again. And as I was looking at them, I heard in the back of my head, I'm much more than this. I'm more than this. There are so many different ways that I show myself, and I was like, okay, what do you want? I'm open. What do you want? What image is not out there that you want? And shortly thereafter, I was having a conversation with my friend, and she started talking about gender and heathenry. And is it okay if I cuss in this? I should have asked that way before.
People have.
Okay, I will try to
can
rein it in.
We can have Lois put a warning that PG strong language.
I will try to rein it in, but I'm very well known for dropping.
You're an artist. You're an artist. You have to swear, right? It's in the contract.
It's in the contract. So we were talking about like generally how kind of fucked up gender can be when talking about certain gods and goddesses in certain communities. And again, I just got this hit of that's what I want, show that. And so I'm going to show my image that came to me. And so this is my gender fuck, Odin Gondlir, or the wand wielder. And he was like, let's piss them all off. And so here we have, Odin. He's still very masculine in many ways, but he's also playing with gender presentation, playing with, that idea of like, I am a transgressor of boundaries. Like, you cannot keep me in your small little boxes. This was a fun, just kind of a fun foray into like just getting to learn a little bit about him in a way that I hadn't seen him in a lot of places. And then once the painting was done, he was gone. He didn't hang around. And that seems to be what happens a lot with most of the deities that I end up painting, is that they come for a while, they come for the picture. Once it's done, they're gone. And sometimes I know who the painting is supposed to go to, and sometimes I don't. And that's okay. I just step forward knowing that somebody somewhere is going to get this image. And I see that there's some messages in the chat, so I'm going to try and.
Well, I was just thinking that's what sales are for. If you don't know, a stranger will come and get it.
Yeah, because exactly.
It was, and sometimes it'll wait for 2 or 3 years, and then they show up and they're like, oh, yeah.
Exactly. And sometimes somebody will purchase an image and you're just like, huh, that's something I didn't know about you. Okay. Okay.
Yep.
So yeah. Exactly. So start with exactly what you're saying. It's about learning to say, then that's what she really works in that kind of sphere of influence. And one of the things that I do in the drawings that I've shown you so far, these are all digital artworks. I started off with, I'm just going to jump around because I don't know what. That's how I do things. All right, so I started off working in digital collage because this was about 15 years ago. I really didn't have an art practice. I had drawn when I was a kid and a teenager, but in my adult life, I really hadn't done any artwork of my own. I had basically written about art. I was an art history major. I studied museum education. I wrote about other people's artwork, but I really didn't do my own. And about 15 years ago, I started working with my teacher, Katrina Messenger. And it was interesting. As soon as I stepped into that student-teacher relationship with her, it was like the floodgates opened and like my art came back. But I didn't really have a lot of skill. I was able to do some manipulation in Photoshop. And so a lot of my early work was this digital collage where I would take bits and pieces of digital images, cut and paste them together. And I really started integrating that with some of my magic work. So this piece that I'm showing you, a dear friend of mine was undergoing treatment for breast cancer. And so I wanted to create an image that she could have in the room as she recovered, that I could basically send my love and healing energy through to her. And so this is an artwork that I created for that purpose. But I also did, artwork based on whatever it is I was learning. So like if I took a class, it would be like I would be taking a class and somebody would be talking about something and I would get like almost a download of like images. And I'm like, okay, so here are the images that are going to be inspired from this artwork. Sometimes when I'm driving in the car, because I have a long commute, I work in Baltimore. No, I'm sorry, I live in Baltimore and I work in DC. And as I'm driving down 95, sometimes, I'll see an image and I'm like, oh crap, I'm in the car, guys, come on. And it's not like I can stop, so I'll just start talking. It's like, okay, yes, I see the mountain. Yes, I see the snake rising up from the pool. Yes, I see the wings. Yes, he's rainbow colored. Yes, and so it's like, I'm like, if I'm talking through what I'm seeing in my head, it takes it from that liminal spiritual thought form realm and it starts to anchor it into the physical. So to me, that's kind of really the first step of moving things from like the realm of Yesod, that like realm of images and illusion, and bringing it down to Malkuth, or the realm of the physical. And so I look at my art as portals. They are portals of energy from, that like immaterial to the material. And then I just started working with whatever materials I had. Crayons. I love to color, so I just grabbed some crayons. I got some cheap acrylic paints and started to paint. I really had no idea what the heck I was doing. But I just dove right in and really, taught myself in some ways. This is a piece that I did, now about 12 years ago. And it is, an assemblage of a photograph that I did some digital manipulation with, some bead work, putting different pieces together. My mother-in-law had just, dug up the roots of an azalea bush from her backyard that was really irritating her. And so I was like, can I just have that? And so took that and hosed it down. And it's interesting. This is one of those pieces where you think you're going to do one thing, and the spirit behind it and the art piece says, oh no, that's not what we're doing here, hon. So I don't know if you can see, it's kind of dark, but in the corners here, there are two little Virgin Mary statues that I've painted black, and then their face and their hands I've painted as if they're skeletons. And before I did that, I had actually painted one black and one silver. I was kind of like going for this, kind of the idea of like the black and silver pillars in the Temple of Malkuth as you leave the temple. And so I did that, and I painted them and I glued them onto the thing. And as soon as they hit the box with the glue and I stepped back, I just got this resounding no. Take that off now. I was like, okay. Thankfully, before the glue had dried. And like, I just knew in that moment, this is not this is not what this piece is supposed to be. Um, so, um, so then I was like, okay, so what do you want? And, you know, you just have to kind of open yourself and say, open yourself up to like just not knowing what the next step is going to be. It's like, what do you want? Okay, you want me to paint them black? Great, I'll paint them black. And then you see like just a flash, skulls. Okay, you want skulls? Fine. Is this it? Yes. Okay, great. You know, and it's a conversation. You know, every art piece is a conversation with whatever's trying to be born through the art piece. I'm going to stop for a minute because I've been rambling on. I'm going to stop for a minute and see if anybody has any questions or answers.
I'm going to ask. Someone had put in chat that they did painting for BC2, BC friend. Sorry, but I hesitate because sometimes people will use the chat to stay anonymous, and I don't want to out anybody that doesn't want to.
No, that was me. It struck home when you talked about painting for your friend with breast cancer. The largest painting I ever did was a 7-foot by 6-foot canvas that I did for a friend for breast cancer. And I didn't want to interrupt. It just struck a chord with me. So yeah.
Very cool.
Painting as healing is a thing.
Really is. It really is. I mean, not only as I think, to me, that is like the purest gift of spirit that I can give to somebody, is something that I've created, that I was like thinking of them. And one of the things that I do on my physical paintings is I often, when I have the blank canvas, I will take a Sharpie and I'll actually write on the canvas, write a prayer to, and I often know like who's getting this canvas, you know. So for the painting I did of Hecate, I didn't know who was getting it, but at Hecate, I wrote a prayer to Hecate right on the canvas. So that's like the very first layer. And then I took the canvas outside and I libated red wine just all over the canvas and let that dry. And then I started laying down the paint.
For me, one of the things, anytime I have to deal with somebody who's ill, or if there's any need, one of the things that happened when my sister lost her husband, I painted him for her. Sandy had breast cancer. I did Venus for her. Just those kind of things. And I've discovered about myself that it's, healing for me, but the best way that I can put all of my intention and love, the best way that I can manifest that physically is in the art.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's like sending a spell home.
Yes. Art as magic as art. Absolutely. It's interesting. I taught a class for Sacred Space several years ago on the tools, we called it the tools of the artist. And it was interesting because some people were like, oh, we're going to talk about the tools that we use, our paints, our brushes, our photography. And I'm like, no, we're going to talk about this. I'm going to share screen again.
Yay.
Yeah. So this is, these are, for me, these are some of the tools of the artist. And, I had to use the framework of the pentagram. And that gives you a framework of 5. So, I look at the tools of the artist are, 1, attention, that you have to pay attention to the world around you, to the messages that you're getting, to the knocks on the back of the head. When you're working with your medium, you have to pay attention to what is your paint doing? What is it drying too fast? Is it drying too slow? Or, what the heck's going on? You have to pay attention. You also have to be open. You have to be open to the process, because you may have a vision that is the most beautiful thing in the world. But as soon as you start bringing that into the physical, you're dealing with the limitations of the materials, but also the limitations of your own skill and the limitations of your environment. And so what you get is not going to look like, that image. And you have to be okay with that, or you're really just gonna drive yourself crazy. Or I should say, I found that I had to be okay with that, or I was going to drive myself crazy. You also have to have vision and imagination. You have to be able to imagine what things would look like. You have to have a vision of what you would like to create, whether it's a portal, and sorry, I'm going through menopause, and so I forget words like halfway through talking.
I have aphasia, and it's happened to me all my life.
Yeah, I'm
So,
blaming menopause.
So to me, it's just this is like what happens to you when you speak in public a lot. It's like,
Yeah.
I have to start every workshop with, if I say something really odd, it's because I also have misphasia. I have told my kids, put the ice cream back in the oven where it belongs.
Yeah.
And I
Yes.
don't even know. And so this is something that I've dealt with all my life.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, but you have to know where you're going. You have to have a general sense of where you're going. That's, for me, that's a vision and imagination. Transgression. That's always my favorite, because the work of an artist a lot of times is transgressive. It is crossing boundaries. And sometimes you're not sure. I mean, like, I'm not sure if I want to cross a boundary or not with my work. There are times I'm like, I don't know if that's something that I want to bring into the world, but there is that overcoming of fear and taking that leap of faith and crossing boundaries where they need to be crossed. And then the tool of manifestation. And to me, that's like where that's where the tools, the physical tools come into play, where you're actually creating something. You're giving birth to something in the physical realm. So to me, no matter what your medium is, no matter what your skill level is with your medium, and I'm not denigrating that, I think you need to develop your skills, but as a spirit-led artist, to me, these are really the more important tools that I think apply no matter what your media is. Let's see. So, you mentioned, Chipakan, you mentioned my Nine Mothers series.
Oh, yes.
So
do you have any of those?
I do, and I'm gonna show a few. So this series. How was I inspired by that? Now I can't remember the story. I wanted to do. I started with the idea of doing 3 not specific gods or goddesses, but these are more, I hesitate to say archetypes, but spiritual archetypes that because we often see triplicities in the pagan community, and we often see the very reductionist maiden mother crone.
Mhm.
And I didn't want to go there with them. That's not where they really wanted to go. But I started thinking a lot about the three realms. So the middle world, the lower world, and the upper world. And at the time I was studying shamanistic healing through Carolyn Kenner's Griffin's Grove School of Shamanism. I was studying with her at the time, and I was really like kind of cogitating and thinking about those three realms and what would it look like, kind of just playing with what would it look like to have these different female mother energies expressing themselves through the three realms. And so this is where it came up with the idea of the nine mothers. And let me share my screen again. I'm going to show you here 3 of the 9. And these 3 from left to right, this is the mother of the ancestors, the mother of the future, and the mother of memory. When I paint images for the ancestors or about the ancestors, they tend to be in their skeletal form. Because when we're thinking about what makes us human, we have to, and the ancestors, it's almost like there's a peeling back. There's a peeling back of culture. There's a peeling back of race. There's a peeling back of all the surface to what do we look like underneath all that? What of our body lasts? What's the last part to disintegrate or to be reintegrated with the earth? And that is the skeleton. So oftentimes if there's a skull, it's like, oh, that's ancestors. That's like my personal iconography. It's up ancestors' skull. So here we have our mother of the ancestors with the skull or the skeleton, and she's holding a skull. You gotta love that. And then and that's one of the mothers from the lower world. The other mothers from the other lower world or the underworld were the mother of hidden wealth and the mother of dreams. True? Yes, the mother of dreams. And then the center image is the mother of the future. And I just, for her, I just wanted her to really be focusing all her love on the child that she's holding in her arms, because to me, that's the future, is our descendants. And so, she is totally focused on nurturing that future, nurturing the descendants. And the background for her is gold paint. So that's kind of why you're getting that glare on the photograph. And she's one of the mothers of the middle world. And along with her in the middle world is the mother of craft. And maybe I'll remember what the third one was. I don't remember what the third one was. I will come back to that. And then on the right is the mother of memory. And she's one of the 3 mothers of the upper world: the mother of memory, the mother of the cosmos, and the mother of song for the upper world. And this painting is actually inspired by an exhibition at the Phillips Collection, which was featuring Aboriginal women artists. And so the background basically brought in the styles of two different women artists. And then I modeled the portrait on another female artist that was featured in that exhibition. And so I really wanted to show her, she's older. She does have a few little hairs on her chinny chin. And you can see she's given us some serious side eye, she's like, what, you got something to say, but she holds the memory of her culture and of her people. And so these 9 energies, these 9 spirits, they're not grafted on particular gods or goddesses, but there's such a strong inspirational energy as I was painting them. Like I knew, like they felt just as palpable as personalities, as a named deity. And let's see. And then and then I also do some abstract work. So my studio is like I was telling Star Wolf earlier, that my husband and I live in an old Victorian in Baltimore. And so my studio is in the little part of the 3rd floor. It gets extraordinarily hot in the summertime. And during COVID, it became my hi there. It became my my office. So a place that was a retreat for me became the place where I had to hang out all day and be on Zoom calls. And I just really didn't want to be up here very much outside of that. And so my artwork really took a drastic change during that time period. And the only canvases that I worked on during that time were these 2 abstracts. And I worked on them in between Zoom calls. So I would get on I'd get off a very frustrating call at work. And I would turn my rotating chair around and work on one of these 2. I also started working a lot more digitally during the pandemic, because that was something that I could take with me downstairs. I work on my iPad. I can carry this around with me anywhere. I wasn't stuck up in the studio. It was lovely. But these 2 pieces is interesting. I got the inspiration to create prayers, but to write them in binary code. I am not a computer programmer. I don't know, but luckily on the internet, there's a place where you can like write things and it'll give you like the binary code for each letter. And so each of these has a prayer that, instead of being written in English, is written in binary code, with the ones being, I did the ones in white paint pen and the zeros in black paint pen. And then I used a lot of texture, which is not something I often do. And I also added some other materials. So, not only is there the texture and the acrylic paint, because I can't work in oils because I just cannot deal with the length of time that it takes for paint to dry. And then I also mixed in soil. So in the road opener, I collected soil from a crossroads nearby and mixed that into the paint. For the soul healer, I actually bought some powdered tourmaline, black tourmaline, and some powdered selenite. And I mixed that with the black and the white paint to give, not only to give it texture, but also to add the energies of those stones into the artwork. And it it was actually really freeing to be able to like do this work a little more loosely than trying to create representational artwork. And with the road opener, if you get that, like that piece was 2 feet by 2 feet. But I found myself as I was working on it, if I wasn't careful, it would just suck me right in. Spiritually, I'd be like, and I would just sit there entranced. And oh shoot, I got another Zoom call I gotta go on, but you have to be careful with some of those. Adding coffee grounds to a piece, absolutely. Yeah. So it was fun, like a magic eye. Yes, absolutely. So if you look at it and you just like unfocus your eyes, like you can feel that those energies like just kind of spiraling there. I love it. So anyway, let's see what else. We've seen him. So this is another digital piece that I did over the pandemic, and it's a very different, it's a more naturalistic style than I usually work in. Again, I'm using some of my time that I used to have to during the pandemic, I got 3 hours of my life back a day because I wasn't commuting. And so I used that time to do things like garden, cook healthier meals, take a class on, digital painting. And so this piece is one I was reading. Again, this happens, like I'll just be reading something and I'll come across a name or description, and it's just like, it's almost as if the energy blossoms up from that. And I see it, it's like I see this image. And so I think I was reading something by, I want to say Sarita Deste. She is a writer she does a lot of scholarship and writing about Hecate. She lives in the UK. I've not had the pleasure of meeting her, but I really like her work. And she was talking about how in Hellenistic times that Hecate and Isis were sometimes seen as and I know there's a technical term that I'm totally forgetting, synchronized or syncretized together. And there was just something about those two names next to each other that inspired this work. And so we have, the triple form of Hecate holding her double torches with the rainbow wings of Isis and the blue lotus of the Nile. And then behind her is the starscape of the Milky Way. So again, it's like oftentimes like I'll just hear something and it's like then I'm off to the races trying to figure out what I'm going to do with it. I also did a series for the Wheel of the Year, and this is this is more graphical than what I normally do. I wanted to kind of play around with, could I reproduce something again digitally that looked like a lino cut print, because I have a friend who does real Linocut prints, and I was just like, I just don't want to invest in the materials for that, but I'm really interested in the look. So I did a series for the Wheel of the Year, and this is the summer solstice, and just kind of a very, very nice black and white. It was just really, for me, stretching me to think about positive and negative space in a way that I never had before. And then we have my current, well, it doesn't feel current, but it's the current project, which is the North American Animal Wisdom Oracle. And this is a project that I've been working on for the last few years. And I had a Kickstarter for it at Sacred Space. I was fully funded at Sacred Space, which was really awesome. But this deck started off with just one or two animal portraits. And as I did a couple more. And then I was like, hey, you know what? Let's do a deck. Because, you know, that seems to be how our community really likes to consume
artwork. Masochist?
Yeah, well, there's that too. But I didn't want to do a tarot deck. I was like, this is not a tarot deck. It's an oracle deck. And it's interesting. This deck is the closest I've come to doing something that's related to what I do as a day job. And I wanted to focus on animals in North America. I wanted to show kind of a diversity of animals. So, you know,
I must ask, what is this one on in the front? You got the bear and the gull, and then something red.
Yeah, so those are deep sea. Those are giant deep sea worms. They they live deep in the ocean. They live where this is where language would be really nice, like right now. Like in the Atlantic, where the two continental plates.
Vents.
Thank you, thermal vents. Thank you. They live in the thermal vents, and they feed on the chemicals that come out of those thermal vents. And they were newly discovered, I think, about 30 years ago. But these are the types of things I wanted to expose people to, that this is not the type of animal we think of when we think of having relationship with animal spirits.
Okay, and above the gull, what it looks
that's
like
a firefly.
microbes?
So that's a firefly. Mm-hmm.
Oh.
So we have a firefly. We have a black-tailed jackrabbit. We have a bison. There's a golden eagle. There's a Gila monster.
Oh.
I call it nudie branch. That is not how you pronounce it, I've been told, but I'm still going to call it nudie branch, which is a kind of invertebrate. I think they're beautiful. An eastern coyote. There's a card for oysters. So I wanted to like get in like invertebrates, insects, fish, reptiles, you know, like everything. We normally think of like the big charismatic mammals, you know, like wolf, moose, you know, sometimes birds like raven. And I wanted to kind of like get in some things that would be a little bit like, what relationship can I have with cockroach? You know, but
they're sturdy.
But here's the thing. All of these animals have a vital role in their ecosystem. They are all necessary in their ecosystem. And that's really what I want people to get out of this deck, is that, yes, it may be weird from a human perspective. It may be a pest from a human perspective, But if we decenter ourselves and look at how does this animal interact with the other animals within its natural ecosystem, its natural habitat, what can we learn from it? So it's, for me, the interpretation of this deck, which is the part that I'm really working on right now, is not so much looking at how have other cultures interpreted the spirit, or what's the folklore of from other cultures, but to look at it, it's like, let's look at a direct connection with that animal. What does it do? How does it live? Where does it live? How does it eat? What does it eat? How does it reproduce? What are its actual behavior out in the natural world? Learning about the animal, and then taking that kind of naturalistic information about the animal, and then stepping into the other world, stepping into the spiritual world, and having a conversation with that spirit and asking it, what is it that you can teach me? What message do you have, if any? And that's how we then interpret the cards, rather than somebody telling you, oh, brown bear means this. It's like, no, that'd be saying like, humans mean this. So instead it's like, okay, let's have a relationship with, and yeah, it's a step removed, because personally, I'm not going to like step up to a grizzly bear. That would be stupid.
It would be stupid to step up to a skunk.
Exactly. But I can still learn about it, and I can still have an interaction with it on a spiritual level.
You don't have to go into the thermal vents.
I don't have to go into the thermal vents. Exactly. And I also wanted to bring up some animals that are endangered. So on the right here, we have a portrait of the vaquita porpoise, which lives in the Gulf of California. And when I drew this picture 3 years ago, there were probably about 16 of them that we knew of. That number is now down to about 10. The vaquita is in serious danger, not because it's hunted for itself, but because it gets caught in fishing nets. It's part of the bycatch, what we call bycatch. So people are, and it's hard to blame the fishermen too, because they are living in such poverty that they're just trying to eke out a living for themselves. But because of how they're fishing, the vaquita porpoises get caught in their nets. So again, I wanted to bring awareness to I mean, look at that face. That is like the cutest face. Just they are adorable. They are adorable, but they don't survive well, or they don't reproduce in captivity. At least so far they haven't. And so, yeah, they're doing, some of the folks that I work with are trying to do what they can to learn about them and to encourage protections of them, but it's a very, very difficult and thorny problem. So this deck, we're in the process of getting it printed now. The Kickstarter campaign allowed me to, or is allowing me to not only get the decks printed for the people who supported the campaign, but I'm also going to be able to get some additional decks. So folks who are just finding out about it will be able to order the decks at a later date as well. So we'll be able to have some extras.
If you want to promote it to schools. It sounds very educational.
Yeah. So let's see, do I have anything else?
I love that you are not being constrained to okay, I've got to do tarot. It's like, no, because then you'd have to force some connections once you this works with this beautifully, this works with that beautifully, and then you start getting really weird.
Yes. Yes.
Let it be its own thing.
Let it be its own thing. To me, it's not tarot unless it's within a certain framework. I mean, that's just my thing. So it can just be an oracle deck.
Yeah. Well, I'm a very opinionated person. I'm quite willing to do that. So
yeah, I have a couple of other decks that I'm working on in between other projects. Again, they are oracle decks in and of themselves, or they're just like ways for me to get my art out. So I'm working on a series of paintings on the runes. I'm about a third of the way through the runes, and that's been really interesting to again, as I learn about them and talk to people who work with them, to create images to go with that. I'm also creating a series of paintings for the 32 paths within the Kabbalah tree of life. So that would be the Sephirah and the paths. And
wow.
Yeah, it's a big project.
Ambitious.
But I'm doing it as I learn. And that's one of the things, like I always loved school. And so as I learn things, I get inspiration, and then I create artwork, and hopefully hopefully it resonates for people. And I put it out in the world and see what happens. So yeah, that's a very roundabout, not very well organized.
Well, probably the tools of the artist was better organized. But I want, we have now done our hour, and I'd like to, oh gosh, I hope you can come up and speak at Changing Times, because there's a lot of artists. We didn't even get to the whole, do you create a circle to do your paintings in, which I know some artists do. And to me, it's you're doing painting that if you're doing art, it kind of oozes sacredness, and it kind of blesses the space. Mm-hmm. Do you think oozing?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely see my studio as both a circle and a crossroads. And I have one of my altars up here, so candles and incense are lit. I don't cast a circle, but like this space, to me, is sacred space. It's my studio.
Yeah. Anyway, so I guess that we've used up time, so I'm going to stop recording. Thank you so much for coming.
I enjoyed it.
Inviting everybody to come, to come to the conference, and let's see, and push.